I like reading Japanese blogs and forums when I get some time to see what Japanese players think of the recent Fatal Frame remake, and recently I came across a rather interesting idea. Minakami crafted its own doom. Now, I don't think this is a new idea by any means. This is something you are very obviously meant to think about while playing the game after all. But when you really dig into the story, when you piece everything together and really take a good hard look at what the game is trying to say, it presents some interesting ideas. Did Minakami actually create its own problems? Was the failure of the Crimson Sacrifice inevitable? Not because of what they did, not even because of a lack of twins, but rather because of how they thought. Let's take a look at this one. So Minakami Village is comprised of 5 families. The Kurosawas, who are the main household and religious leaders of all ceremonies carried out here, making them the default leaders in general, and 4 branch houses of theirs, the Osaka, Kiryu, Tachibana, and Tsuchihara houses. Pretty much everything in this village revolves around their religion, which is headed by the Kurosawas. Everything is built facing the Kurosawa house, which itself is situated above the gate to hell they fear so much. Everywhere you go, you can find twin Jizo statues memorializing sets of twins who have died for this gate, and you can find visual representations of string tying these twins together, constantly reminding you that twins are connected, that twins are one. Minakami itself appears to be founded on the belief that twins are not technically 2 individual people, but rather one single soul that split in the womb into 2 different bodies. This act is apparently something only capable by a divine spirit, and thus twins are considered to be something akin to divine living beings. But it also means that, despite being divine, they are also incomplete. At some point, these twins must rejoin to become whole again. They can't happily grow old together as broken, incomplete people. You can no doubt already see how this train of thought can only lead to a dangerous ideology and, ultimately, tragedy. So how do you rejoin 2 parts of a broken soul? By killing one of the physical bodies, obviously. Duh. The game never specifies exactly how the villagers discovered this, but at some point they discovered that one twin killing another created an explosion of energy, if you will, strong enough to sate that scary gate to hell beneath their village. And thus, a cult of twins was born. Twins became revered for not just being divine beings, but also for their power to save the village. In a way, they became a necessary evil. Any other attempt to seal the gate to hell just didn't last. The only reliable method they found was one twin strangling the other. And so the entire village was built up around this one idea. Twins are one soul in 2 bodies. That soul must eventually be rejoined, and it's likely going to happen sooner rather than later. As horrible as the thought is, and we do have evidence of numerous twins trying to fight against the ritual and even escape the village, it appears that many more were indoctrinated from a young age and fully bought into the idea. This is generally not viewed as a bad thing for them. In fact, many twins even appear to look forward to the ritual so that they may rejoin with their other half, like Saye herself. You can even see this idea physically in the village layout itself. Before the ritual, the twins move into the twin houses, which are connected both above ground and underground, with passages the twins must move through to see each other, leading to a seamless integration and mingling of two halves into one whole. The twins continue moving through these separate paths in two separate bodies until they eventually reunite for good in the Kurosawa house, the heart of the village. Here, they are led down to the hellish abyss, where they finally become one for real, in a terribly painful ritual that leaves one of them dead and the other traumatized for life. Now, if we think of Minakami as a cult, you might think at this point, yay, big success! One twin died, the abyss is sated, everyone's safe for another few decades, and everyone's firm in their belief that this is necessary. So, the next set of twins should happily go down there to repeat the same tragedy. Right? Right? But the game also tells us about how poorly the remaining are treated. They remain in the village as living deities, as guardians, apparently reunited with the other half of their soul. But they're also now shunned and feared. After all, they've still done something incredibly taboo, and they're now basically ostracized for doing exactly what the village told them to do. And think about it. The twin who died is, in a way, simply erased. They're not really a living god. They're a nameless, faceless crimson butterfly at best, and their half of the broken soul joins the remaining, by the village's way of thinking, and it's this twin who is revered, who acts as a guardian, and who is ultimately shunned for those exact same reasons. Most remaining become so lonely and desolate that they either end up going mad or taking their own lives. Many watch their hair turn white from the trauma, and very few make it to a ripe old age. Kurosawa Ryokan proves himself to be an exception in numerous ways, and this is likely because he was the direct successor of the Kurosawa family. He was necessary for the cult of twins to continue, and so he, at least, managed to escape being shunned for taking part in the ritual. But he is the exception, not the rule. And so, we have two very large issues at play here, that ultimately culminate in some contradictions that cannot be ignored. Contradictions that mean the crimson sacrifice ritual the village has cooked up to save them is ultimately destined to doom them as well. 1. The village needs a near constant supply of willing twins to go through with the ritual. They've discovered a way to temporarily sate the abyss over the years by offering it outsiders. But ultimately, they need twins, and these twins have to be willing to kill each other. And how do you do that? By telling them they're technically one soul in two bodies, and that they're simply becoming whole again. GG easy. You create a belief where twins are broken, incomplete people. They need each other, and the only way they can ever be complete is by taking part in this ritual. Codependency taken to the extreme. But they also have to be willing to kill or die for each other. So, if you push it too far, they might rebel and try to escape so they don't have to do that. A weird and very strange balancing act that is prone to failure. 2. Once these twins do go through with the ritual, they're basically discarded as trash. Divine trash, but let's be real, trash nevertheless. Nobody talks to them anymore. People whisper and hurry in the other direction when they see them. They might as well not even exist for all the human interaction they get once they become a remaining. And this often leads to neurosis and further tragedy. Something that future twins will grow up knowing about. making it all the harder to make them believe that killing each other is the right thing to do, you know? The Tachibana twins, the second to last pair whose ritual failed and helped plunge Minakami to its doom, are perhaps near-perfect examples of all of this at play. By the time of their ritual, Minakami only has 2 sets of twins who could possibly take part. Them and the Kurosawa girls, who are a year younger than them. Now, these boys do willingly agree to go ahead with the ritual, but only because they don't want the Kurosawa girls to do it. However, their ritual ends up failing for an interesting reason. We're told they loved each other too much. It's a contradiction, right? The twins are supposed to love each other. They need to love each other, so they're willing to die for the other, kill for the other, so they can become whole again. Their entire village is built around a cult that deifies them, that builds them up from birth as 2 halves of one whole. What the hell do you mean that the ritual can fail because they loved each other too much? What does that even mean? While the game never actually explains why this is an issue, it still presents some interesting information about the game world itself. The twins need to have an incredibly strong bond, but not too strong. They need to be dependent on each other, and they need to want to become whole, but not too much. Too much and it weirds hell out, I guess. I don't know. It's a system that is inherently flawed, and this is compounded by treating those who do actually succeed as if they're diseased creatures you mustn't even look at. Is it really that much of a surprise that after carrying this out for decades, and even centuries, that it would fail? And so with Saya and Yae, who are forced to step up once the Tachibana twins fail, we see the other side of the coin as well. What if one twin isn't willing to kill the other? What if one twin doesn't want to become a remaining so they can spend the rest of their lonely life being shunned and left with nothing but their thoughts about how they had to kill perhaps the most precious person in their life, their twin sibling? All for some people who are now ostracizing them. The Crimson Sacrifice ritual was always destined to fail. There was simply no way it could continue in perpetuity thanks to, well, Minakami itself. They created beliefs and acts that were contradictory with their goals, and so they ended up reaping what they sowed. And through Mio and Mayu, we're given one last chance to fully explore all this. We get to not just experience Itsuki's story with his twin brother, and Saya's story with her twin sister, looking at the ritual from both sides, but we get to experience it firsthand ourselves. Mio begins the game already feeling guilt and responsibility for her sister, thanks to that injury she got as a child. An injury Mio blames herself for. They already have a somewhat codependent relationship. Something Minakami loves. The remake reinforces this for us by adding the hand-holding mechanic. You can't just run off without Mayu. She's too slow. You need to escape with her. You need to help her up. Your own health and willpower is restored merely by physical contact with the other half of your soul. Mayu is so dependent on you for everything here. But you also have to kill her. The slow realization of that is horrifying, and in this village it's been that way for centuries. Of course, this ritual was going to fail. As soon as they made their village revolve around the idea of twins as gods who must kill each other, it was destined to fail. They set an expiry date on their own existence. Could they have found other ways to deal with the gate to hell? Probably. They did, after all, discover that sacrificing outsiders worked as well. This just wasn't as powerful as using twins. But their entire lives, their entire ideology, their entire faith was built around twins. It's hard to move on from that, and their unwillingness to change and adapt ultimately killed them all. A powerful message. But what did you guys think of this one? Are there any other bits of Fatal Frame lore you'd like to see me cover? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you again next time.